One that's this stuff too, that's a little bit more icier. Heavy wet stuff.
Yesterday was horrible. When I checked out, I was literally thought about leaving the car at walking out.
Where were you?
Oh, there wasn't even any carts.
No,
I didn't even leave the door to get a cart.
I went out and got one in the parking lot.
Your Dodge?
Yes, and it was all because I forgot the teachers, the teacher.
Oh.
license.
I haven't gotten anything.
No, I did. I'm back yesterday. The teacher training. And
Did you find it? Cause I was in church when you.
no, I just went with a tumbler and I moved on.
Oh, there you go. That's smart. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Maybe gift cards to morning. Glories.
Yeah.
You better do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay. Start now, I think. I'll call the city council work session and agenda for December 19. Roll call
Abby Hansen,
Here,
John Hawkins,
here.
Megan McFarland,
Here.
Matt McKinney,
Here.
Logan Welch,
Call for a motion to approve the agenda.
so moved.
second,
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the States of America. Okay, so we have work session presentation by Rick Willing from Census Gatsco on speed cameras.
Hi there. Thank you so much for your time tonight. I'm Rick Willing. I'm Director of Business Development for Census Gatsco. A little bit about my background. I was in law enforcement for 32 years, and then I've been in the photo enforcement industry for 13 years. I had an opportunity to present some information to Daniel and to the police chief before, and I've kind of updated it. Since that presentation, we've done some speed studies in your community using an independent third-party traffic engineering firm, and I'll be able to share that information with you tonight. Census Gatsco has been in business for 62 years. We have 60,000 installations across the world. What that means to you is we've had to meet the very exacting standards of all the different countries across the world. So you can be assured that the equipment that we have meets the highest level of standards and certifications that there are around the world. We have a significant presence in the Iowa area. We have 8 active programs in Iowa. Marshalltown is just a recent selection through a competitive RFP process of ours, and we're going to be starting the implementation of their program after the beginning of the year. So we have over 60 systems installed in the state, and through our history, going back to the 08-09 area, we've issued about 101.7 million citations across the state. We are also based here in Iowa. We have a maintenance and engineering center and warehouse located in Marion, Iowa. We have 3 full-time technicians here assigned out of that warehouse that are dispatched to maintain our systems and do periodic maintenance checks on them. So I did a little bit of study about your community using the Iowa DOT website. Since 2017, there's been 573 crashes in your community, resulting in 233 injuries and 1 death. And these crashes have resulted in property loss in excess of $3 million. As we know, crashes result in dangerous emergency responses, and it ties up your police officers who could be addressing other public safety concerns and quality of life issues. So anything that we can do to help reduce the crash rate in your community has an added benefit of creating additional value to your community. So here's a heat map of the crash data from the Iowa DOT website. As you can see, you have a significant heat core in your downtown area. So as part of our discussions earlier on, we did have the engineering firm place traffic counters at the following locations on the recommendation of the chief and the city manager. So those are where they were placed, and we conducted 24-hour studies at each one of those locations. So here's the results. Again, they were for 24-hour periods. And you can see the direction of travel that was incorporated into the study. But each second at Harris had, out of 2,100 vehicles, 848 were traveling 12 or more miles an hour over the speed limit, with the fastest speeds being 66 to 70 miles an hour. The second most predominant location was 220th Street near 2nd Street, which had 247 violations with a high speed of 81 to 85 miles an hour. And then you can see on US 17 near close, we had one vehicle in excess of 90 miles an hour, and then down on the list. So the assessment from anecdotally within your community, and that is, you know, there are some locations that significantly need addressing in regards to speed compliance in your community.
How long of a time frame was that?
24 hours.
That was just within the last month, but
Yeah, it was done in the last 2 weeks. I wanted to get them in before the weather hit so that you could get some, you know, relatively decent normal data in regards to it. So those were done in the last 2 weeks. So everyone says, well, what makes automated speed enforcement, you know, of value to a community? I rely upon a couple of independent third-party studies that are done that have no, you know, way to bias their information. NHTSA indicates that automated speed enforcement is an important element in speed management and can be a very effective countermeasure to prevent speeding related crashes. However, they recommend that it don't replace your other typical traffic enforcement efforts that you have. It's to complement what you're already doing. And then as a result, in several studies across the United States, they found that automated speed enforcement reduced the proportion of drivers exceeding the speed limits by more than 10 miles an hour, declined in between 70 and 88%. So it is a significant deterrent, and it does change and modify driving behavior. So our program is a full turnkey solution, including the hardware, and then all of the software and back office management of the potential violations, all the way through to final disposition of the notices of violation. And I'll mention it a little bit later on, but only your city police officers can approve a violation. So we capture what would be considered an event, which is set up with the standards that you establish as a community for how you want to handle the enforcement. We review those events and send them through to the police department, but only the police department can say either yes or no to issue a notice of violation for it. So it's a full turnkey solution. We basically manage everything for you. A little bit later on in the presentation, I'll show some of the things that would be the city's involvement in. So here's a couple of examples of our camera systems. They're the most credentialed and accredited camera systems in the industry. Our systems can track up to or monitor up to 6 lanes of traffic of speed and up to 5 lanes of red light enforcement with a single system. They're fully integrated, and the units can be swapped out. So if a PC board goes down or something like that, the technician doesn't have to troubleshoot it. They literally just pull the system out of a rack and put a new one in, and it's up and running right away. The systems include both xenon and infrared flash for night capture of events. We have 20 megapixel cameras in there, so your evidence sets give you very clear pictures of the event or the violation. And we also have 1080 live stream and recorded video that can be an added benefit to your community should you have an incident happening. The dispatch center, if they have access to it, can log onto the system and see what's going on in real time. But in the same sense, it's recorded video too. So if you had some type of crime and you were looking for a suspect vehicle or for something, you can recall the video imagery and be able to assist you in your investigations with. Our red light systems, and I know you're looking at speed, but I just wanted to go through it anyhow, is the camera is set back about 100 feet from the stop line of an intersection, and it monitors the vehicles that are approaching that red light. As part of that, they're assessing this, the system is assessing the speed of the vehicle, and if the vehicle passes through the intersection after the light turns red, it captures an image, as you can see up in the upper left corner there of the imagery of the vehicle behind the stop bar at the time when the light is red, and then a second image of it proceeding through the intersection. And then there's a 12-second video that is also captured so that when the police do their review, they can watch it in real time and watch the violation. Speed systems work similarly. They're placed along the side of the road. It can capture both preceding and receding vehicles and monitor their speed. Again, we have the system set up with the speed threshold that the city decides to use as their enforcement threshold. If a vehicle passes through one of those lanes at a speed that's at or above the enforced limit, it'll capture an image of the vehicle, records all the information on an encrypted data bar in the imagery. Our radar is lane specific. So if there's any question when you have two vehicles side by side, which one is the vehicle that's violating, it's identified on the encrypted data bar because the radar is lane specific and can identify the lane in which the violation did occur. So then through that, then we blow up the imagery of the license plate and identify the vehicle through the still images. We above and beyond the fixed solution that we have a mobile speed enforcement unit that can be incorporated in. It's the same technology, the same system that you have or seen in our fixed systems. This is really nice in a community where they want to rotate it around a community and use it for enforcement in different areas to encourage compliance with the speed limits in different areas. Can be used at school zones, can be used in different areas where you typically wouldn't want to monitor all the time, but could use it for some specific times and locations in different areas. We also have a handheld solution that the police department could deploy. It again works in the same concept. It creates still images and video and records the violation at the time and the speed limit enforced that they choose to. So once the incident is captured, the evidence set is loaded into our back office, which is called Zillium, and everything after the incident capture is managed through this system. It's fully integrated and it has all the different managed components that you would need to manage your program incorporated into the back office. It includes a lot of analytic reports, and it creates all the reports that you would need from an operational management and financial standpoint for your program is all incorporated. So your staff doesn't have to waste a lot of time pulling some data out and creating reports. It's all reports that can be managed and created for the system. As you see along the left column there, that's a list of all the different reports that are capable to be generated from the program. So we talked a little bit about it before, but an event is captured by our photo enforcement system. It then is processed manually by our processors in our home office. And again, they're using your enforcement standards based upon what you want, how you want to create your program to be run. At that time, they do a license plate lookup and populate all the information in there. Once they believe that it meets all of the standards that the city has established for it, it's then put in a reviewing queue for the law enforcement officers to review. They log into the secure system, look at it, take a look to make sure that the license plate matches up and is accurate to what the image of the license plate is, and then double check in regards to the lane and the speed verification. There was a question about how long it would take to process for speed incidents. If an officer has a routine to it, it takes about 20 seconds to 30 seconds to review the information and then either accept or reject it. And then once it's accepted or rejected, or once it's accepted, then our system prints out the notice of violation and sends it out to the registered owner. So here is the example of the police review queue. Again, all the information is on the left-hand side as to the location, the date and the time of the incident, what the vehicle speed was. And then down in the data bar below, they would be checking the lane and then verifying that the license plate and that matched up to the vehicle in the image. Here's an example of the image quality with a 20 megapixel camera. As you can see there, if I was to blow that up, you can actually read the lettering on the back of the truck in the far right lane, which is 5 lanes over. So you get very crisp, clean imagery so that when you're enforcing it, you can be assured that there's no guesswork in regards to it. It's clear and articulable evidence of the violation. Here's an example of our imagery, and we like to use it. This was in regards to a Swedish tender that we were working on. And one of the tests that they put the companies through was, if you see to the left, that's an eye chart that they put in the windshield of the vehicle. And to be able to pass the test for the performance of the system, they had to be able to read the 4th line on that eye chart in the still image. This vehicle is going over 100 miles an hour when that incident was captured. In actuality, you could read the 6th line with our system, and they actually gave us extra points because our imagery far exceeded the rest of the competition in regards to this tender. So it's just another example of how we can make sure that your systems are run and operated without there being any discredit to the systems based upon the image quality that we were able to provide for the evidence. I did mention before too that it includes every incident, it includes a high definition video. This is an example. This is just a test image that of the video that was taken at night, just to show that even during the nighttime hours with some ambient light, you can actually see clearly the vehicles passing through the intersection. As I mentioned before, we do process the citation notices for you as a city. They are unique to each community. You get to design and have input into exactly what information is included in the messaging in regards to the violations. We send out first notices, second notices, and then some other companion documents that you may have in regards to your program as part of delivering it from the very beginning of the violation to its final disposition. Included in here is in the Zillion back office is a way to manage your hearings. You set up how many that you would want to hear on any given court call. And we assist in logging those requests for a hearing into the system and then provide a court call list to the administrative hearing officer. That can be done either by calling our call center or it can be done online through our online portal. We do have a citizen payment portal on there too, as part of it. Should someone receive a notice and want to pay it over the portal, it gives them an opportunity not only to see the evidence set, so they get to see the imagery of the still images and the video, and then it gives them the opportunity to either request a hearing or to make a payment in regards to the notice of violation. So we're committed to customer service. We have a project manager here in Iowa. He is a retired police officer. He would initiate your project with you, sit down, go over your business rules, set them up and everything. He runs the program for the first 90 days to make sure that everything is running smoothly, and make sure that any needs that you have are addressed and taken care of. It's then transitioned over to our account manager, Mark Devich, who has over 10 years of photo enforcement experience. We have a dedicated customer service support team that can be reached either by phone or by email. So if there was any issue with managing your program from your side, we have people that you can reach out to right away and take care of that. As part of our customer service, we do provide police training so that when we sit down with everyone that's going to be working in the program, help them understand how to log into the system and manage the various capabilities that the back office has. I mentioned before the court hearing scheduler and the customized report, and I did mention that we do have maintenance contractors here, in Iowa. One of the most important things about starting up a program is community awareness. The best thing that you can do is be very transparent with the start of your program and after. We have a lot of experience in helping you design your community awareness messaging. And there's some recommendations here: town hall meetings, a lot of social media, website, creation of brochures, program progress updates. We always do a 30-day warning period at the start of your program, which is free to the community. We issue warning notices for the first 30 days once your program goes live, as a way of help the messaging and make the community aware of the program. In addition, we do post signs in your community to indicate that the traffic laws are photo enforced. So the city effort in managing your program would be a deployment of a mobile solution if in fact that was something that you chose. We talked about officer review of violations. Again, the question had come up about how much staff time is that. Based upon one system, the calculation I did is if an officer reviews 3 per minute, which would be the 20 seconds for a 50-minute period per hour, it would take about 3 staff hours per system per month to be able to review the violations. So if you had 3 systems, then it would be about 9 staff hours of review. Nationwide, our PIC systems are generating on average about 450 reviewable incidents per month on average. The cost of our program, there's no upfront costs. It's violator funded through the paid notices. Fees are generally $35 to $40 per paid violation based upon the enforcement solutions that the city may choose and the size of the program. And that would just all be dependent upon what you felt comfortable with in your community. I would highly recommend that if you were to consider it, scale it in, start small and test drive it and see how it goes in your community. And then should you choose to add additional sites at a later time, incrementally add to your program when you identify locations that would be suitable for having this type of program. Our systems also are capable of license plate recognition. As you can see here, we're running a test camera that's probably the equivalent of about 6 lanes off the roadway. And the camera is able to pick up the license plates all the way over in the farthest lane. So with the license plate recognition, you can do it one of 3 ways. One, it can just record the license plates at a location. So that if somewhere down the road you had an armed robbery or something and you want to see what vehicles pass through that area at any given time, you can recall into the library and take a look and see if there's vehicles that are registered to. You can also create a hot list, which would be if there was registered sex offenders near a school or someone that was wanted or a stolen vehicle. It could read the license plates and give an instantaneous alert to the police department in regards to a vehicle passing through that location that was on a hot list. Or it can do a combination of both. It could be both a library and it could be a hot list alert. So we're a true Iowa partnership. There's no upfront costs. It's fully turnkey. There's local program operations. And we're dedicated to the community safety in your community. Do you have any questions that I might be able to answer?
Could you show
Sure.
Logan the
Go back to your speed.
the speed for
Sure.
Studies, yeah.
I apologize at a Christmas concert.
Yeah,
way more?
that's way more important. Trust me.
Fed here to get here.
So here's the speed study results. These are 24-hour studies that were done in the last 2 weeks at these locations. And you can see the different directions that they were. But your what I would call a hot spot, it would be your East Second at Harris, which had 848 violations that were 12 or more miles per hour over the speed limit. And then you can see what the fastest speeds that were recorded during that 24-hour period. I was talking to the chief before the meeting and I said, yeah, some of them didn't really have a lot. But when you start thinking that even, US 17 near close at 142 violations, if you extrapolate that out over a 30-day period, that's a significant number of people that are driving through your community at a very dangerous speed, which could contribute to crashes in your community.
Sir, you said it's 30-day?
This was a 24 hour.
Yeah, I'm saying if you were to, you kind of say, well, US 17 at Edgewood only had 19, but that's 19 per day. And if you extrapolate that out to 30 days, there's still a significant number of cars that are going through your community at a speed significantly higher than the posted speed limit.
Second in Harris would be 24,000 in a month.
Potential violations.
I think the thing that stands out the most to me is the fastest speed and how dangerous that is in those locations.
It was 90 and
Now, and going back to your number, remember that these systems, once they're in place, is going to reduce it down to about 20% of what potentially could be there or even more based upon the location.
Rick, I want to clarify, you made a comment that the citations that are issued don't go against or do go against the driver's record or don't?
No, they do not. It's a civil penalty. You would enact an ordinance, a local ordinance in regards to it. If people didn't respond to the violation, your police department could issue a municipal infraction in regards to it and then have it assigned to the court. And then when that occurs, should there be a non-appearance or a finding of guilty, then it would be adjudged a debt owed to the city in regards to it once the court disposition. So what you would do in the interim before that happened is you would, as part of your ordinance, you would have a process for administrative local hearings in regards to the civil infraction. And then have it included in there that should there be any non-response, the police department could issue a municipal infraction for it. I've shared with Daniel some of the different examples of municipalities and what their fine structures are in that, as well as their ordinances. So if you need any other resources, as you contemplate this, I'm more than happy to add or share.
If I remember correctly, some of those citations, they're tiered based off the number of miles per hour over the speed limit.
So when you have some of these very aggressive driving behaviors, you can have a tiered violation that has a higher penalty for those higher violations.
Any other questions for Rick?
How long do the images stay? So like you said, you can go back and see if somebody has been.
For the recorded streaming video,
Yeah,
we normally hold it for 30 days.
okay,
So even if you did have an incident there was a delayed report of it, there's still going to be the opportunity to be able to, capture that.
okay,
Our systems across the United States has identified homicide suspects through an imagery of a vehicle passing through an intersection, has captured a license plate on a fatal hit and run at an intersection. So even if you didn't have a camera at a specific location, there's a very good possibility that if they're looking for a suspect vehicle and you have a system down the street, they're more than likely going to be able to pull a frame off of there. And with 1080p, with the frames that you're able to pull off, there's a very good likelihood you'll be able to pull the license plate off this vehicle too.
okay.
I know council had requested this presentation, get more additional information, so Rick, thank you for.
Not a problem. It was my pleasure to spend some time with you and look forward to answering any questions that you may have in the future.
Great presentation.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Those numbers sure give you different light on things.
So council wants to see brought back, do you want a proposal from Rick, or do you want to go out? Or, for some of the questions we had brought up at the last meeting.
You said it's funded through violators, right? I mean, so the proposal would be what you guys take off the top, right? And like what?
Yeah. That way never out of pocket to the city, because what we're asking for a fee is only based upon violations that are paid through your program.
Do you usually pay?
It's around $35 to $40, depending upon the size of the program and what the
Like percentage of that. So like, say like a violation $100, your company would take.
$35 to $40 of that $100. Yeah. We're not on a percentage basis, so if you had enhanced penalties for certain violations, it's not a percentage basis, it's a flat. And that covers all of our hardware, all of our back office processing, all the mailing of the citations and all the management of your program.
I got you. I mean, I guess I wouldn't mind seeing what those numbers would look like in a proposal. But what's best to do? I mean, should we put it out?
If I may, Marshalltown just went through a competitive RFP process. You may want to take a look at theirs and see if you're comfortable with what they've done. Instead of recreating the wheel, you might be able to take a look at their assessment and that without having to go through a full-blown RFP. Just a suggestion. It might save some time.
I think initially it was just based off timing was one question of the council wanted to see this implemented by the summer per se. It'll take about 6 months from start to rolling out the first camera full implementation. So if you go through an RFP process, it'll add about 90 to 120 days into that. So I'll just push everything back. We'll say census, they've been very informative. You can see the communities in one of the slides of what they represent. They were also represented or served Cedar Rapids, which was a city whose program was challenged and upheld in the state Supreme Court. So just to put in perspective what they've been up against so far.
I'd be more than happy to put together a proposal and share it with the council in regards to it. What I would need to know though is what you would anticipate in the number of systems and what types of systems that you'd want in your community. And again, my recommendation would start small and then grow on it. Don't shotgun blast your community, measure and do a measured approach to it. And I can put some numbers together relatively quickly and get it back to them.
Good.
And again, it's somewhere tomorrow. If you have another question, feel free to give me a call. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. Or if you need other resources. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Have a Merry Christmas.
Sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You want to email me the PDF and I'll send it to you.
Yep, I can do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 1, petitions, communications and requests. This is the time of the meeting that a citizen may address the council on a matter not on the agenda. Except in cases of emergencies, the city council will not take any action at this meeting, but may ask city staff to research the matter. I have the matter placed on the agenda for a future meeting. Anyone have any public information? Something they want to bring up? No? Item 2 is minutes, claims, reports and licenses. The following items have been deemed uncontroversial routine actions to be approved by the council in a single motion. If a council member or a member of the audience wishes to have an item removed from this list, will be considered on a normal sequence on the agenda. I have A, minutes of December 5th. B is a resolution on payroll for a period ending December 3rd and paid on December 9th. C is a resolution on bills and approve the fund list. D is the city manager reports for November. E is inspection reports for October. F is the police department reports for November. G is the fire department report for November. H is a Hamilton County Solid Waste Commission agenda packet. I is a Planning and Zoning Commission December minutes.
Move to approve collectively.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
3, general agenda. Public hearing at 6:05. Yes, public hearing on public improvement project to construct the Fairmeadow Drive widening and reconstruction project and to acquire property for the project. I'll open the hearing. Are there any written objections?
Receive no written objections.
Are there any oral objections?
No oral objections.
I'll close the hearing. Over to you.
Sure. So good evening, Mayor and council members. The public hearing and the resolution before you is to authorize us to proceed with the public improvement project for Fairmeadow Drive. It is a widening and reconstruction project that does involve some pavement rehabilitation, a new water main that will be increased in size, some sidewalk on the north side of the road, some sanitary sewer repairs and storm sewer repairs as well. We did have a public information meeting on November 30th, and 5 of the 8 property owners did show up. Everybody was excited about the project. It is going to be a little challenging during the traffic control process, but we are going to be working with people. This hearing is necessary because we do have to acquire some more right-of-way in order to make this project happen. So this is just the first step in doing that. Once you guys approve the resolution, we'll be able to pursue the property we need.
Like I said, I didn't see anything in there on the approximate width that we were widening.
I think it's fetus.
Yep.
So 3 feet on each side. It's- Okay.
For resolution providing for authorization to proceed with a public improvement project to construct the Fairmeadow Drive widening reconstruction project and to acquire property for the project.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. B is the second reading of an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of City of Webster City, Iowa, 2019 by amending Chapter 46, Article 10 pertaining to off-road utility vehicles and golf carts within the corporate limits of the City of Webster City.
Like I mentioned before, this is just removing all of the registration information for ORVs since the change by the state made earlier this year. And I would appreciate it if you waive third reading, pass and adopt, so it can be in place by the first of the year.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Move to waive the third reading.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Move to pass and adopt ordinance.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
You know,
Very good. No, okay. Item C is the first reading of an ordinance amending the code of ordinances of the city of Webster City, Iowa by amending chapter 48, article 5, section 48-346 pertaining to commercial wind energy conversion systems. To take the 2 mile limit in.
So this one is mostly a cleanup to the ordinance. Originally, the intention was to include no wind energy farms within the 2 mile, but that was not included. So we would like to include that into the ordinance, and that's why it's before you. P and Z Commission has already reviewed it and approved it as well.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Those same sign. Item D is a resolution providing for notice of hearing on proposed plan specifications, proposed form of contract, and estimate of costs, furniture materials for the 2022 electrical underground conversion project for January 16, 2023 at 6:05 p.m.
So this is tied to the award that was done October 3rd of this year. At the time that we did open the bids, they were not able to quote transformers, but we did receive notice from vendors that they're able to do that now. So we've put all of the package together and we would like authorization to seek bids.
It's a long lead time, so
Yep.
Second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
E is a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into a city attorney compensation agreement for legal services. Another 3 years.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. F is a resolution accepting and approving the minor subdivision plat for Broadacres addition of Hamilton County, Iowa. Just getting your steps in.
So the next two are before you because they are within our 2 mile jurisdiction. They have been reviewed by city attorney and all of the utility departments and were approved. They both were also taken to planning and zoning commission and were being recommended to you for approval.
Move to approve.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those same sign. Item G is a resolution accepting and approving the minor subdivision plat of Havinger addition of Hamilton County, Iowa.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those same sign. H is a resolution setting date for public hearing on designation of the expanded Webster City Riverview Urban Renewal Area and on urban renewal plan amendment. We'll make it for January 16, 2023 at 6:05 p.m.
This is setting the public hearing date for the urban renewal development area that it is referred to as the Riverview Urban Renewal District. This was initiated in part because People's Credit Union is doing an expansion of their project of their existing building. And as we started reviewing the urban renewal area, we all staff wanted to incorporate and expand the area to include some of the park and rec facilities adjacent to the district. Those include the outdoor swimming pool, East and West Twin Park, as well as Nokomis Park on the north west corner. Those areas are indicated on the map in purple. The existing boundary is the teal and this light green, which was an addition that was added some time ago. And so part of the reason for wanting to include those into the urban renewal district is as development occurs in these areas, the city has the ability to leverage that tax increment to fund some of those projects. Now, majority of this district, which encompasses downtown, is already built out, so you're gonna have not a lot of projects that come to fruition, but there are a few in the queue. And it gives the council the option to take that increment and a new property value with projects that are expanded or built in there to use towards some of those projects. Some of those projects include, at least on the Park and Rec side, total of over $2 million in Park and Rec projects just between the outdoor pool, East and West Twin, and the Comus Park. They vary a variety of different needs and capital projects. In addition to that, City Hall is also within that urban renewal, and there's also projects here that we're looking at, specifically our ADA plan improvements. With the ADA plan that's being updated and expected to be completed next year, and there will be updates both at City Hall and throughout different infrastructure and right-of-way improvements to address that plan, as well as a significant HVAC system project that's going to be coming up for City Hall as well. So, you know, you factor in all those projects and all those needs. If there's the opportunity to leverage TIF, council so wishes, we can capture that TIF on some projects that are coming up on the horizon. So this is just setting the date for that public hearing.
Approve.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Item I, presentation and discussion motion on direction to staff and city council for the goal for splash pad.
So we've talked about it over the past several months. It was a topic that we talked a little bit in depth regarding splash pad as one of the council goals. Staff has been doing some research and researching the matter. And we've also recently spoke to Snyder and Associates. And we have here today Clay with Snyder to kind of go with you an overview of some of the engineering perspectives. He's a land architect that works with Snyder and some of these projects that are going on. So Clay, I'll give you this remote and hopefully it works.
Good evening, council. Again, thank you. My name is Clay Schneckloth with Snyder Associates and appreciate the opportunity to come up here and speak with you this evening. I'd like to start off, these are the fun projects. These are the ones that I enjoy working on as a landscape architect. We work on various parks projects throughout Iowa, and we've grown with the niche of some splash pads and pickleball courts are kind of the two hot items that we deal with parks throughout communities in the region right now. And so you guys are right on topic with a splash pad discussion. It's been a demand. We've been hearing it from communities all around the region with we want to be able to throw some water on the ground and have some kids or basically everybody enjoy some water without having to do a major aquatic center because everyone knows those are pretty expensive too. So we're hoping to provides another amenity that the community can enjoy and provide this with the ability to have an ADA accessible feature and amenity that the community can enjoy. As we start talking through splash pad design, you are more than likely aware that there's two types of systems when we start discussing splash pads, a recirculating type system and a non-recirculating type system. The recirculating type system under kind of current Iowa Department of Public Health falls under the same swimming pool regulations. So splash pads would have to follow treatment similar to water treatment, similar to what you would have to do with a swimming pool. So with putting in a chemical treatment or a UV light type treatment, those types of systems, when you start getting into doing a recirculating system, adding that treatment system, it adds a couple $100,000 to the project just right off the top, creating a recirculating system. A non-recirculating system, it's just like as it says, you push the button, the water comes out, everybody enjoys it. It flows into your sanitary sewer system. We understand it is a waste of water. We are trying to do what's right and what's good for the environment when we start doing recirculating type systems. One of the items that we've come across when you start doing recirculating type systems is that There's also a requirement for showers and restrooms that need to be on site with it too. So the idea of, hey, we want to be able to throw some water out there for some kids to do it. We also want to do what's right for the environment. Kind of kicks into some more regulations where you're like, we had just, a couple $100,000 that we thought we could do for a splash pad. All of a sudden it's 200,000 for another recirculating. All of a sudden it's another 400,000 for a restroom and shower building. All of a sudden you got a $1 million project and you're hoping to just do a little $200,000 splash pad. So there's a lot of components to it that we want to try and go over and make sure everyone's aware of when we start talking. What are some of the items that we want to look at and review? As you can see, this first slide is just a pretty simple splash pad where we have mostly some ground sprays that come up. They do get pretty elaborate when you start getting into some vertical structures here. We'll just kind of show a couple different ones here. And of course, they all range in price. As you get more features, it gets a little bit more expensive then too. One thing to consider when you start thinking about size and scale of splash pads is in relationship to your community. Is there a desert where a portion of your community doesn't have a recreation activity, where if you maybe put in a smaller type splash pad here and then plan for maybe another one in the future in another spot? Or do we want to consider just like one big splash pad and one feature of the park that would work well for the entire community? So we start looking and talking about programming needs too within the Parks Department and the city and the stakeholder groups on the size and scale and how it relates and affects and helps the community and even surrounding communities too that come in and enjoy it. We noticed that in some communities that we work in is that we hear people from other towns come in to go to it just because they're like, oh, it's pretty quick and easy for us to get in there. We don't have to fight lines. We don't have to pay an admission fee to kind of get in there. A lot of times it's more like a daycare type city or not city daycare group that comes in because they're in the summer months, they're taking daycare and they don't have to pay a fee. It's nice for them to come in for a couple hours and get the kids to play in the water and go to the shelter and have a little snack and then go back to the daycare facility. But that's what we hear, at least, is that a lot of daycare community facilities come in and will utilize this during the summer months though too. They do get pretty big when we start talking with some splash pad manufacturers. There's basically two big companies in the Iowa region that install splash pad manufacturer features. One brand is Aquatics and another brand is called Vortex. This just happens to be an example from Aquatics. They both have example sheets on their websites that we can pull up and talk off of. But they're the two big players that basically produce and supply splash pads in the Iowa region area. When we start, a lot of times we recommend going through an RFP process to start looking at what features do we want to have. A lot of it is, you start looking at this picture here, it's kind of, well, I like this. Well, I like this. Well, I like this. Well, okay, we get together with a stakeholder group, come through and understand what are the key components that we would like to have as a stakeholder group. What's a priority? Is it recirculating? Is it non-recirculating? Do we want to have above ground features? Do we want to have just bubblers coming up out of the ground? We work through all the different components of the splash pad to figure out what are the key items that we feel like we want to present and for the community that they would enjoy. We pull together this spreadsheet, do the pros and cons of all the different features, talk through whether it's a brass type fitting, PVC fitting. Well, what's important? Do we want to have a virtual control where someone can control it from their phone to be able to shut it down? Just all of a sudden something happened out there. We want to be able to shut it down. We've got the ability to virtually control it from off-site there. There's also some lightning detection options too. So that's just in case if all of a sudden, the flash is going lightning, you can shut it down that way too. But these are all options that we'll talk through when we start setting up an RFP process. A lot of times when we do set up the RFP process, we'll set up what are our key priorities that we want, but then also set a set budget. And then we'll send the RFP out to open it up to anybody that wants to submit as a manufacturer, but they need to hit that budget and meet the key components that we want to hit. So that's how we keep it more of an apples to apples comparison. And then the splash pad manufacturers will be able to submit as a stakeholder group. We review, hey, this one submitted 20 features, this one submitted 10 features for the same price. Well, let's get more play features than this one. Let's go with this option. So we were able to do the review. Everybody submits for that certain dollar amount. What can you provide for that dollar amount? Their shareholder committee reviews, gives her a recommendation to council to move forward with whichever option that they select that would be great for the community. And then we'd be able to move forward with construction with that specific manufacturer following the construction season then. Not sure if there was any questions. I know there was a couple of them that we talked through when we met briefly. But the idea is that as a group, we work through and come up with what are the key things that we really want to see. We let the splash pad manufacturers, they do it for a living, design all the key components. They know how many they can fit in there to get that design to hit that dollar, that amount that we set. And then we were able to select and choose, yeah, we really like that design, or we really like that design. We were able to move forward with that option. That's kind of the scenario on how we work through it with a lot of the communities, to be able to give them the option to work with a project that's within a certain budget. And then we're able to select kind of the features that we like or want to have within that project.
How much water does one use?
So when we start talking size and scale of splash pads, they range in size from a smaller splash pad might be 1,200 square foot, and a large splash pad might be more in that 5,000 square foot area. We'll just say an average of right around 4,500 square feet, a splash pad. Daily use is, if you're doing a non-recirculating type system, is I do have the numbers in my catalog there. I was trying to remember if it's 65 or 4,500 gallons there.
What rate does that tell you?
It's gallons per minute. Yep.
So I mean, if it was running 400 minutes a summer day or something.
Yeah.
Because it just goes for a while. That's all.
Correct. Yeah. We can set up the sequencing on how often it runs. On the information that we've pulled it together, the average is 80 days per season that it would run. And then the math that it comes out is on a 4,500 square foot splash pad for 80 days is right around that 5 million gallons actually. So it's a large number of gallons that is used on a non-recirculating type system.
Yeah, but I mean, that's comparable in, if you've got to build showers and toilets and everything else and a filtering system, and then have somebody spend all the time.
Do the testing with it. Correct.
So it does one sort of,
You think it would also reduce the amount of families that just use a sprinkler system in their own backyard? You know, I mean, because I mean, granted, then that family would be paying for that water rate, but you would think it would reduce that maybe marginally.
Yeah.
But again, I'm just trying to kind of like offset that waste.
I guess it's, you know, we've got room. Do that amount of water. I guess that's the.
Yeah, I mean, if it's just for a pass through, it's just gonna be water going through the system and ends up at the wastewater plant, so.
But I mean, we're not gonna run out of water because.
No.
So, yeah, that's not like.
Yeah, one of the couple key points, as we've gone down this road was one, the cost of materials related to splash pads have gone up dramatically, you know, as Clay may have mentioned, and we talked a little bit at length about that, and what we, I think, envisioned pass back in the goal setting session was probably going to be a smaller mid-sized splash pad. The cost of that is probably more considerable than we imagined back 6 months ago. So that's one of the key factors we needed to find out if it's still something the council still has an appetite to do. And if so, if there's a specific location you would like, and then at that point, we would obtain a proposal from Snyder to begin the legwork to get all this set up. And if council wishes to set up a stakeholder group to engage on the different amenities and features that would be included in that.
Right, I mean, we set it as one of our goals for a reason. This has been a community request for a decade now that I can just, I mean, probably before that even. Granted, costs may have grown. But again, I don't know why we should still keep going down the path to figure this out. And as for location, I've always envisioned it at East Twin, but I mean, maybe we're running out of space there of other amenities you put in there, but. And I've never really thought of another location, but so if there's better locations, please let us know, but I've always kind of envisioned it there.
What about where the playground equipment is at West Twin? Like, how is that equipment doing? Been there a long time. I mean.
That one does, and it is slated for, I'll let you talk, Brianne.
Yes. Playground equipment was put in, and it is having disrepair occurring, but so it is, we're going to phase it out as time goes on. So but that West Twin Park is one of the areas that we have placed for a site selection. Also, Wareheim Park is another area that and when I say site selection, it has enough space to do something like this, or Nokomis Park. So those 4 parks are the ones that we have selected spaces for Snyder.
Discussion of building a shelter at Nokomis anyway, correct?
Correct.
What about the leaves and trees? And
Yeah,
stuff?
I was gonna say that's gonna be one of the issues that we would have to look at is the proximity of trees on debris that gets into the drainage systems. You're gonna see that, well, at all the parks, but some will have more trees than others. One of the other things, as Clay alluded to, is the daycares, are gonna be drawn to the splash pad to bring their kids, and perhaps the proximity of East Twin is more ideal because the daycare is already bringing the kids down to the outdoor pool. And so it's a little bit easier to cross Union Street than it is to cross Superior Street to get to East Twin if they're just going to be dropping groups at the pool and at the.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, again, the thing I love about either East or West Twin is it's somewhat centrally located. Wareheim Park is kind of a secluded neighborhood. You're gonna have not mature trees, so you're not gonna have an issue with that because it's a newly developed area. And Nokomis Park is gonna be the other end of that spectrum. You're gonna have a ton of trees and leave. Again, I've always kind of seen East or West Twin Park, whatever works best land wise and safety of crossing Superior as a location or something like this, because it's really probably the most central park I can think of in Webster City.
Do we have, I mean, the figures that we saw in here, is that something that's on the smaller side? What are we seeing for a 4,000 square feet, 3,500 square feet? Has there been anything quoted recently that we can see as far as what that, component cost has gone up?
Yeah, I just bid one 2 weeks, it's probably been 4 weeks ago now, sorry. But it was 1,200 square feet, 12 spray features, basically 10 ground sprays, 2 verticals. It was 275,000. It was a non-recirculating type system.
And that's on the small.
That's small scale. It's pretty small scale. A few years ago, it would have been significantly cheaper, but right now it's a little bit more expensive. It's in a community where was a top priority of theirs too. They want to get water. The community's been begging for getting some water for a splash pad, and they're deciding to move forward with it because it's just time they need to move forward with something.
You see this more frequently in communities that don't have public pools,
No,
just in addition to.
Yeah, I thought we went to a thing at the league conference and I thought they said it was about. Like most places had both.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Clay in our conversations that talk, the new ones you see coming on are separate from a aquatic center type of setup.
Correct, yeah. And some communities are looking at doing multiple smaller ones just to be able to, the south half town, the north half town, each get one, or northwest corner and the southeast corner kind of thing. But we do have some communities, Walnut, where we did a fairly large splash pad area too, but they did not have a swimming pool there. So that's their water amenity.
What else would you need?
If you guys are okay, I understood. Proceed, and we'll talk with Snyder, getting a proposal for you guys to consider in the near future.
Yes.
Thank you, Clay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, Zach?
Just for my report real quick, as you know, we're still continuing to work on 721 and 719 Des Moines Street. That's still progressing forward on those. BD and I have been working a lot on these advanced metering, smart meters, I guess, and we've completed the service agreement for that. So that should be going out for RFPs in the near future. And then obviously you guys approved tonight the revisions to the off-road vehicle ordinance so that we'll no longer be charging the licensing fee or the registration for ORVs, but we will be for golf carts. So just pass that information along. You still have to register your golf cart, but.
Simple. That would now we're down to a work session on the Wilson Road Park. We've got Doug here tonight. You could ask questions. Or help us along or whatever you need.
What would you like in there?
Sit right up there. Just, yeah. A little close if you like. I assume, everybody would have read them. You explained it all pretty well.
Take a start. I've not met any of you, so my name is Doug Herman, attorney with Lynch, Dallas, and Cedar Rapids. We represent probably over 50 cities, mostly not this far away. Nason City, maybe one of our furthest, Clinton, Mount Pleasant, but a lot of cities in eastern and southeastern Iowa. So that's kind of my background. I was also a city manager for 15 years. While a lawyer, city manager, lawyer again. So kind of bumped
I
around.
don't recommend it.
Had to get out. No, so it's enjoyable to go to council meetings and all the cities are talking about the same things, same issues, same goals. Oh, it's good to hear. So yeah, with regard to your park situation, I think as I try to address, the first big issue is kind of what are your options? I guess a caveat out there too, as a lawyer representing a city, a lot of times our communications are privileged, and when we talk in public, we lose that privilege. But I think this is kind of a public discussion point. So if it gets to the point where you'd like to talk more privately, then we can do that and have closed sessions potentially, not necessarily, but potentially, and confidential memos to advise you guys of things to consider. But back in history, of course, the family, this situation, I think their intent was, we'd like to give this property to the city in return for the city agreeing that this is going to be a park forever. And to take certain other conditions, some that were kind of normal, some kind of unique. If you hire somebody to take care of it, you got to start with a family member if they want it. There's a cemetery component. I don't know how many graves are there, but I noted that regardless of what you might do in your Iowa code, you have some other obligations to be sure that is preserved and maintained. But there is a lot of case law. There was a recent case in Iowa, but it cites a lot of older cases too that talks about the ability of a council or a board, a municipal body to obligate a future council for a governmental or legislative area. So when you think about this, the question would be, can a council from 1932 obligate a council from 2020 to maintain that as a park? And I land on the answer that no. You've got all kinds of political considerations in play, but I think legally you can kind of look at all the options and decide what makes the most sense. And that's the second question then that I got into a little bit is, what kind of things could you consider from things you could enter, create an ordinance to establish a board similar to, I was going to say a library board, but your library board is kind of unique, similar to a park board or similar to an airport board, or a board that makes recommendations and answers to the city council. You could set up a board more like your library board, where you've had folks getting elected by the public to oversee this. You could could do a 2080 agreement with the county and maybe a private entity. Maybe that private entity would be a 501c3 type organization. You know, I think it's the situations I've run into in the past, particularly where whoever's in charge is hoping to raise money, whether it be grants or other funds. And there's always going to be a little bit of skepticism on writing a big check to a city or a county on will that money legal and other things. So having a separate entity, whether it be a 2080 or a 501c3 where that money can go, gives people a little bit more comfort level. And if there's a foundation involved, I don't know all their rules real well, but there's some advantages to giving money through a foundation too. So a lot of things to consider there locally, and this might look. I drove by the park on the way to town, and the booth was all lit up.
Yep. I guess what we wanted to know was what sort of, whether we're gonna set up a board or not, wasn't it? So, I mean, we legally can, but the sound of it, so that was probably our first question. That was one of the things that was given to us. So we can legally do whatever we were talking about doing. So.
Council's goal, maintaining this as a park, maybe just to try to find other sources of income and other leadership to kind of take it over, or not necessarily.
That's probably the concept that's been put to us, is that have a different group run it so that perhaps it can be get more donations and things that way. If we're not part of it, that was probably the intent. That is the intent there, isn't it?
The council has a comfort level with that under the right set of facts to kind of.
That's what we're dealing with right now, is whether what comfort level we're happy with. So, and of course, the county had said that they would be in something, be prepared to be in something with us, but that's if we did it as a board, and we have money that was going to be donated if that's something we did as well. So.
Is the county waiting for us to give this what it looks like to us before we meet with them?
No, I don't believe so. I think we were to meet with them and discuss it between us and them as to how we'd want to be. But we had to sort of have a bit of an idea so we could say to them, this is where we're coming from, and these are the sorts of things we're thinking we want to have.
I'm glad we got clarity. That there was a contentious point, like this is donated or given, by these two families, and do we have the right? And I that weighs a lot. And again, I kind of think of that a lot when we make policy. Is our policy going to dictate policy of a council 100 years from now? And should it or shouldn't it? And I agree with your opinion on this, but I guess I don't really know where we stand as a council, to be honest. We definitely want to see the park succeed. We made a commitment to that years ago. But what does that look like? And how do we get there? Self-funding or donor funding? And how do we make our donors comfortable? So I'm open to proceeding. Again, I want the city to retain some type of control on this board. Just to make sure future budgets are not affected, or maybe better way to say it is future budgets are not out of our control.
I think I did correctly mention, we can see a lot of times. You've got some of these cities where you have your friends. So the city still, you have a board under your code for the park, kind of. That's how it's run, how it's operated. Maybe you have an agreement with the county, so there's county investment, city investment. But then you have the Friends of the Park who set up their own 501c3 over here, and their main purpose is to generate money, whether it be grants or other things that are oftentimes available to a 501c3 but aren't to a city. So that group is over here on the side, local people who are very supportive of the park. That could be the fundraising wing, help offset those costs.
That's pretty well what you were proposing, isn't it, Gary?
Yeah, I think substantially.
Yeah.
Other than you were wanting an elected board by the residents.
Well, I think, I did reach your opinion, but I agree with it. Did a good job. Because I've been looking at it also, kind of in the city. I think there's more accountability. That's the approach that our committee is the Wilson River Historic Committee, which has been appointed by the city council to advise the council. I think that there's more accountability. There's elected people, but I noticed in your opinion, we did talk about sometimes people don't want to have their name developed. So you do have that drawback. I hadn't thought of that, but I think technically we should have, and what we have here is already a 501c3 organization. It's called the Wilson River Park Depot Foundation. Set up, it's been running. It used to be a tax exempt body, but it lost its tax exempt. Sort of file. So the CPA that's working on that is active. The idea would be in some way use that entity, that Park Foundation, to be what you call a partner some way, and have a 2080 agreement where the city's either you're not going to sell it, but they perhaps will lease it to the and have engagement agreements with the partner that we call partner. I think that it can work out. You know, it's just a matter of making sure that everyone's understanding fully what the responsibilities are. What local talks about is the idea of the city having some control. It seems to me like there can be control if you have a lease with the foundation. Am I wrong on that? I mean, there's where you talk about having some safeguards.
Yeah, I think so too. And the 28, I'm sorry, 501c3 is losing their tax exempt status happened a lot.
Especially new well.
That's what usually happens, but the reinstatement process out there just pain in the neck.
Yeah.
So that's not an unusual thing. You know, having that 501c3, I'll say already set up, even though they've got to go through the process to get reinstated, I think is a good thing, even if, regardless of how you might recognize this, having that nonprofit wing out there should be a good thing.
Is the 2080 agreement, do you think that's a better way to do it than like, because what was suggested was the, one of the boards, the type of ones we have now, like Fuller Hall or Henley Young, but is it the 2080 agreement seems like,
well,
probably.
When I think of the 2080 agreement, there are benefits and negatives. The negatives are, it's more procedural and there's more hoops to jump through. You got to file it. You got to file biannual reports. All the partners do. There's some hoops to jump through and to maintain it. A benefit when I think of that is with the county. If the county is not a party to something, their investment's going to be less certain. Again, like we talked, I mean, even with the 28E, they could always decide, a new board would come in up there and say, yeah, we don't think we should be doing that anymore. And we're going to back out. We're going to end our relationship here. But having a 28E or having something in place that goes to the board annually for their commitment, they're more than likely going to say, yeah, we made that commitment, or some of us did, and we're going to follow through with it. Or without the 28E, just with say in your city code, you create a board or commission with elected officials and identify how that board work, and they'll have a relationship with the 501c3 with the idea that the county is committed to some support. It would be maybe less binding on them.
Right.
But that's real dependent on who those officials are.
But I guess that's always the problem with councils as well, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's true. And every city is a little different too. You know, when I speak of people sometimes not wanting to be on a ballot, I've had a lot when I was working for the city or after, a lot of times there's a vacancy on a council. We said we're thinking about appointing somebody, we'd have 5 or 6 people show up. We'd have an election, we'd have trouble finding somebody to run.
Yeah.
So, but some cities don't have that problem, but a lot. But park commissions historically, I think I've seen a lot of them that, and this isn't what this is specifically, but a lot of your park boards have been elected in cities.
But we do get more people putting in for parks than when they, you know, when boards and commissions. There's more people want to be on those than anything else, I think.
Well, I guess I would make similar comments to Logan. I'd like to see us move forward in a way that the city can have some oversight or at least some safeguards in place on, you know, maximum amount, requested from the city per year for funding. I'm okay with whether it's an appointed or an elected board. With the right agreements in place, if we feel like this is a way to bring in additional investors that, you know, that it's going to be funded and it's going to be used in the right way, then I think it's a good thing. I wasn't supportive of, you know, the property itself being moved on who has ownership. But if we can figure out a way to actually make this and improve the park from where it's at. We all know our funding sources are drying up from the standpoint of tax money. So if we can take advantage of the fact that we might have additional donors by structuring this a different way, I'm supportive of that.
Well, I guess our next thing is to meet with the county. Really, I mean, we can't do much until we meet with them. And
You're thinking of an investment by city and county, or you're thinking just money, or thinking maybe the city would do some physical public works parks would do some maintenance, county would do some maintenance, or are you thinking more just writing a check and having some other entity?
well, we do the maintenance there now, the grass and the snow removal, and well, we do everything at the minute. But I mean, you know, perhaps we would still be doing, I don't know. I mean, that's something.
Discuss.
We
part of
would,
the
yeah,
discussion.
that's part of the discussions. We obviously, it'd be easier for us to keep mowing it, I guess, but we don't, you know, we, our idea would probably be a step away from a lot of it, not be as involved. But I mean, I guess to do the grass and a few things like that's not so hard for us to do, but take us away from the maintenance and everything else that goes on there. So the county wants to donate some land that's there, and that was what brings them in, and of course they're donating some money for the courthouse that's there. So and they'd want to take responsibility for the courthouse, I believe.
I think that potentially be great.
Yeah. So they're willing to come on board, and we haven't had any help from them in the past. So it's there is some wiggle room there.
We also should be aware that the county is, I know this from discussing this with county supervisors, are at the point of saying that they would donate the land to the city itself. Preferably, they would prefer to lease it to the foundation, but it's still to be discussed between the boards as to how that's done. Also, what really helps, I think, the enhancement of our park is that if the county is willing to donate the land and willing to give us a first option on what land remaining, first option to buy, plus right of ingress and egress off of Superior Street, which we don't have now. That enhancement of itself should go a long ways. People believing that, hey, this is really something. And from the idea of also fundraising, it's meant to be, once we get it established and if the foundation is going to pursue it, I would expect there to be a lot of movement and a lot of activity within that group, within that organization to go out for additional donations. We have one donor now, and I'm not sure you're aware of this. Mr. Attorney, forgot your first name.
That's right, Doug.
Doug, yeah. There is a donor who's willing to give $1 million towards an endowment, right, along. But it's done on the condition that we set something up. I think that would enhance as a catalytic effect on other potential donors that have money in the county. We open it up to the whole county being involved. I believe it does bring the city and the county more together with citizens to be more of an incentive to actually invest donations in it. So it's a matter of trying to organize and get that together, but we can't do much until this is resolved in the county and the city.
So I guess we'll have to meet with the county guys and see if we can get a plan together and what sort of arrangement we need, and then we'll have to come back to you and see how that can be put together.
Comment, I had a project once where a gentleman came forward and said, I'm gonna donate, say $500,000. But I'm only donating $1, if somebody else donates $1. So, and he actively went around and helped find other people, and he got his neighbor to say, I'll put in 5, then he put in 5, so he turned his 500 into $1 million.
A matching fund idea.
Mhm.
Yep.
I'll wait to hear from you.
So we need to
Thank you.
set this up as a work session, or do you want it part of another meeting at
Well,
the first of the year, or?
We'll have to do it as a work session, I guess, but I don't know.
Did you guys, and I guess, is there any specific other questions you have for Doug on research matters? I imagine we either probably have another work session with the county either before or right after the first meeting in January, so I want to make sure if there's any specific questions the group has, was gonna ask Doug to follow up on, so by that, whether that be more pros and cons on the 2080 agreement side of things, or whether keeping it as a city board or elected board. Some of those questions put in mind of what's your appetite.
I would think the 2080 agreement things probably seems a better way to set it up, but I don't know. I mean, it's with the county and the city being together and everything. I didn't realize you could have all 3 people in it, so because otherwise I thought that was a dead issue, but yeah.
It's a question I don't have the answer for myself, but I think if you set up the 28E administrative agency or board within the 28E agreement, you kind of identify how its representation would look. And I think you could have those folks elected also.
Right, because that was the piece of it, and we haven't found out for sure yet whether we're allowed to have an elected board yet, so that was one of we never did get an answer yet, did we? We didn't get an answer back from Kim, from the auditor, whether we can have an elected board or not.
Well, from the auditor,
Yeah,
no.
so I think we were waiting to hear back from the state.
Yeah.
We haven't heard anything yet, so.
Question was whether or not, if we have a board, is it an entity that you need to put on the ballot?
Right.
But it seems as if the city and the county have proprietorship, ownership in the land. It seems like that could be put on the ballot, but I don't know that for a fact.
That's a piece that we've got to maneuver around it as well, I guess.
I actually considered calling the auditor, but I called your knowledgeable clerk instead.
But I didn't have that answer.
Well, yeah, but your library board, I was looking for a better understanding of that.
Yeah.
So I think literally if you set up a board similar to your library, you have to definitely be able to have those folks elected.
Right.
But again, one of the points that has been referenced throughout this whole process that Doug elaborated more is that future councils, I guess regardless of whatever setup you have, whether it's a 2080 agreement or whether it's gonna be a city board, future councils and future county supervisors can choose not to renew that and extend that. So that's always gonna be in the backdrop. Things don't go well or funding gets cut. That's always a factor that either government entity can decide to withdraw from.
Well, that's what's happened in the past. That's why the park ended up the way it did. I mean, because the council decided not to fund it anymore. But I mean, I guess we're always in that field, aren't we? whatever we do doesn't mean that someone in 5 years' time is going to do the same thing. But I guess all we can do is put our best foot forward.
You come up with the best solution and it works, it'll probably keep.
Yeah. If we can make it work, then it should stay working.
Our goal, of course, is to make it self-sustaining.
Yeah, and that, of course, is the biggest piece. If it becomes self-sustaining, then like Kendall Young board, then I guess it should be fine. It'll have a life of its own, and it shouldn't have to be something that I have to worry about too much in the future. But obviously, in the infancy of it, we have to make sure it works. So.
Any questions, anything else comes up? For me, funnel them through Daniel.
Yeah.
Well, Doug, thanks for grabbing out here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hope you have a safe drive back.
It was snowing much when you came up.
Surprisingly, just enough. Excited the Iron Falls exit, it's a roll-over accident.
Yeah.
Another guy there trying to run the ditch.
Usually, if there's one, the other guy's watching him.
Add that.
Usually the way it goes. When you see one, you pay attention to what you're doing, because everyone seems to follow the other one's in.
Yeah.
Take a brief recess for a wonderful session.
Let's go ahead and make a motion to go into closed session.
Thank you very much. Meet in closed session to discuss the purchase, sale, of particular real estate and where premature disclosure and reasonably expected to increase the price the governmental body would have to pay for that property as provided by chapter 21.5J of the Code of Iowa. So moved. All those in favor say aye. We'll have a 5-minute recess if we want to run to the blue. I don't know if you can get in. Is that the right one? The boys ones. Boys. They both have seats.
Mr. Allen? Okay.
Okay.
Selfie? Yep, no problem. Bye. Have a good night. Merry Christmas.